a lot of times I started doing this just going, this is just something I feel strongly about. I just need to go out and talk to these families and let them know that I, at least, am not going to forget the sacrifice that they made.
Hey, Bikeaholics, 3D has a wide variety of innovative products for your Harley-Davidson and a brand new line for your all-new Honda Goldwing named Gold Strike. Top quality, affordable chrome lighting and comfort products, Zero Gold Strike are the motorcycle LED lighting innovators for CAN bus plug and play system compatibility. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store and check out our full line of Zero 3D products. Oh yeah, once you've had Rick Rack, you'll never go back. The ultimate motorcycle luggage rack solution. Forget those messy straps and bungee cords. Go strapless with a Rick Rack quick attach luggage system and quality bag. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Get hooked up now. Oh yeah, welcome back, you freaking Bikeaholics. This is the podcast for the motorcycle majority, the Big MM, also known as the 99%. Large and in charge of the motorcycle scene more than any time in history. That's right, by being here, by listening to this very podcast, you're part of what we call, that's right, hashtag Biker Revolution. All right, before we get started here, I do have just one question for you. You know what it is. What are you waiting for, Bikeaholics? Mount up. Let me take you on another wild ass ride. Yeah, and I say, let me take you because I am in the studio alone today because we got an awesome interview coming up. And it is, well, I'm not going to say a lot about it other than it's about an organization that is helping military families in some very special ways. And so look forward to that interview coming up. Just a couple of things I want to go over, and that is an email. We get this question quite often. It's a little bit older, but nonetheless, let's do it. Caleb Cobb of Little Rock, Arkansas. Hello. First, I'd like to say I love the site and your content. I just recently got into writing and even more recently purchased my Harley, an 06 Fat Boy. I purchased your ape hanger video, and it made installing my Burley brand apes a breeze. There you go. I'm really glad that video was helpful. I also purchased your regular 5,000 mile service video after a dealer friend of mine told me they were going to charge me $400 just to do a 5,000 mile service. And I'll just chip in here real quick before we finish the email. Yes, that is, we hear that a lot too, and that's very unfortunate. For the price of our video, very, very minimal expense. And you can obviously do the oil changes the rest of the life of your bike. So get hooked up with that video. He goes on to say, I had no idea that it was that expensive. I'm about to start the service now, but I have a dumb noob question I was hoping you could help me out with. I'm not sure if the air filter I have is stock or if it's a dry or if I'm supposed to oil it. I was wondering if I sent you some pics or you'd be able to tell. The only markings on it are a serial number on the inside. Thanks. And we basically told him it's kind of hard to tell for sure, but we would just switch it out to a paper mesh, in my opinion. I know some of you out there like the oil bath ones. That's cool. I'm just telling you my opinion from having used both over time. I like the paper mesh. I believe 2014 and newer Harleys started coming out with those really cool paper mesh ones where you don't have to put them in an oil bath. You can wash them with warm soap and water and rinse them out and reuse them multiple times. And you don't have the mess of all that oil that collects all kinds of grime and dirt, and just an easier system, in my opinion. So not that expensive. So yeah, Caleb, that's what we told him. That's what I would do, is just switch out if you don't know. And from then forth, you have a paper mesh that's washable and are reusable and a lot less messy. All right, real quick, new free video up along with many, but I just announce them when I can. We threw up on the YouTube channel. Get over there, get subscribed. That channel is still blowing up. It was, if you're interested in a police bike. So what in this video, I basically give you a complete overview and walk around of the bike that I ride every day for my law enforcement, Leo police motorcycle, job. And, some of the specialty equipment that's on it. It's a real good overview of that bike, and tons of comments on that video. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, get over there. I kind of show you how it differs from, a civilian version of an Electroglide standard. And you might be surprised it doesn't differ that much other than a lot of the specialty equipment. But it's a inside look. So there, check that out. And of course, we love our sponsors currently, Rick Rack and Zero 3D. But I also want to thank the following people because they are a direct result on why this show keeps moving down the road. There are beloved patrons. These are some of our newest ones. David Allred of Bolivia, North Carolina. Hans Gessel of Edison, New Jersey. Bob Kennedy of Palm Coast, Florida. Moving on, Hugh Brandon of Guilford, Vermont, I believe. Jeff Petty of Northingham, Pennsylvania. Joshua Parrish of Camino, Washington, right here in our neck of the woods. And finishing it out with John Kaiser of Arlington, Texas. Dennis Menno of Largo, Florida. And Tom, not sure last name, but Old Town, Idaho. That's right. You can get hooked up, become a patron. lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon. Pledge a certain amount per piece of content. No risk to you because you can put a monthly cap. There are benefits such as t-shirts and stickers. Get into that private Facebook group, Troll Free Zone. Nothing but bikers helping bikers. Early access months ahead of everybody else for the podcast episodes in the back of your patron accounts. And then, meetup events, ride events. You can get access to those premium videos up on request for all you top tier patrons. There you go. Thanks a lot to all those new patrons. So right before we dive into this awesome interview, I just want to give you just a little bit of information. The interview is going to be with Anthony Price. He's the executive director of the Gold Star Ride Foundation. All right. Now, the Gold Star Ride Foundation, they actively support, comfort, and provide education benefits to Gold Star families throughout the United States, and will provide these things directly with personal visits via motorcycle. That's how they obviously ended up on this show. So, and we will support those other organizations that work to assist in these same activities. We do the work that our fallen heroes would do if they hadn't fallen for all our freedoms, is what they say. We heavily here at Law Abiding Biker Media support our military, our veterans, our first responders. So I love talking about these type of activities. And they're helping, this organization is helping these military families in a very special way, which you'll learn about in the interview. And I'm excited to learn about that. So in 2018, Anthony, he did a single ride, 18,000 miles, 44 states, 56 days of solid riding, and visited more than 60 Gold Star families. Don't worry, you'll learn what a Gold Star family is. We will learn in the interview. And after that ride, he wrote a book, and I will put it in the show notes. I'll put an affiliate link. Of course, if you click through, make a purchase, no additional cost to you. We get a small kickback commission. So appreciate that. You'd not only get a cool book, but you'd help us out a little bit too. So again, in the show notes, lawabidingbiker.com/whatever episode number this is how you can always get those show notes. The book is called, and let me make sure that I get the name right. Let's go over here. Yours very sincerely and respectfully is the name of that book. So with that said, let's dive into this interview.
I found a list a couple years ago that said Minnesota was 7th on the list of motorcycle ownership per capita.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and I found that list at a time when I was shopping for a brand new used motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then I came to realize, well, no wonder they're so expensive here. Everybody wants one.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Yeah, so I did a little bit digging, and I found out that there is, in fact, a list, and it goes from 1 to 51. So I threw out Washington, D.C. and Maryland. Those were 50 and 51 on the list. And I looked at 48 and 49, and they were Louisiana and Mississippi.
Interesting.
So I looked up Craigslist ads in Louisiana and Mississippi, and the end of the story is that I flew down to New Orleans, got on a motorcycle, and rode it back home. First of all, I did the 1,265-mile ride in 30 hours, stopping for 10 hours to take a nap at a hotel on the way. And when the whole thing was all over and done, I had a $16,000 motorcycle parked on my driveway with $6,400 invested in it, and that included the plane ticket to go to New Orleans.
Wow.
And the hotel room. So
yeah.
You know, if you're willing to do a little legwork, you can get some stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for reaching out to us. We have heavy supporters of military and first responders, so we always try to get you guys on. Why don't you just give me a little bit of your, do you like Tony or Anthony?
Well,
price?
I like to say that my friends call me Tony, but my publisher says you got to go by Anthony all the time because people will be confused.
Right. Okay.
Anthony is the name that's on the cover of the book.
Gotcha. Well, why don't we dive in? Give me a little bit of, before we dump into the Gold Star, Foundation and all that. Why don't you dive into a little bit of your motorcycle background? Because obviously you must have had that to get going here.
Well, I just started riding motorcycles right after bicycles. I think I was 11 the first time I shifted into second gear. I've just been riding ever since. And now I'm almost 6 decades old. I was born before John Kennedy was assassinated. And by the time Nixon resigned, I had years of experience of riding motorcycles already. I think the biggest one at that time was 70 cc's.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And was that mostly street bike experience, or did you do dirt biking too?
Oh no, none of that was on the road.
Okay,
no,
that was a 70 cc dirt bike, basically.
Yeah, it was a Honda Trail 70.
Okay.
Before I had the Honda Trail 70, I was riding a Honda Trail 50, which was an automatic, which means it would sit in idle in first gear without moving. You accelerate and off it would go, and then you shifted. I think it was a 3-speed or maybe a 4-speed, but you shifted without the clutch. So that's kind of what I learned to ride motorcycles on. By the time I got to the 70, it had a clutch, so I had to learn how to squeeze that little lever in. And I've been kind of riding motorcycles ever since. When I came home from the Navy, I think I had 3 motorcycles in the moving truck with me.
Very cool.
Coming home from Naval Air Station, Dallas, Texas in 1991. Long time ago for that, too.
Yeah.
And I took a few years off. I had a Harley in 1998, and I owned a bar at the time, and Dr. Hook was going to play, and I had to run some errands. So I was like 100 miles away when I get a phone call. It was kind of a strange phone call at that because we didn't have cell phones then, or I didn't have a cell phone then. But anyway, I get this phone message that says, if we don't have $1,500 in cash, we're loading up the bus and we're going down the road. And I made another phone call to a friend of mine who had the motorcycle in his possession. And I said, what do you give me for that bike? Anyhow, that motorcycle mechanic took the cash over and handed it to the bus driver for Dr. Hook.
Wow.
Yeah. 3.5 hours later, I was there and the band went on. And, we can have an awful lot of fun just talking about different concerts and what happens when you promote a concert and what kind of, rock and roll stories and stories from the hotel rooms and all that stuff.
Oh, I imagine.
I did quite a bit of that stuff too. But yeah, then what happened was my wife and we've been together for 10 years now. And about 9 years ago, she was invited to provide a cigar rolling service for a Tee It Up for the Troops golf tournament here in the Twin Cities, where that organization started. I don't know how familiar you are with Tee It Up for the Troops.
No, I'm not.
Seems to me that they have golf tournaments in Washington now as well. They've been doing it for 15 years. They've raised over $10 million by having golf tournaments. They usually have retired athletes come and swing the clubs and stuff like that. So, they raise a bunch of money that way. Anyway, they invited my wife to come with cigars to that event, and she looked at me and said, well, hey, you're a disabled vet. Why don't you come along? And, my knee-jerk reaction to that was, why? They don't do anything for me. I've got a lot of experience being a disabled vet. I've been a disabled vet for almost 30 years. And most of these organizations, when I call them up, they close the door on my face. And they just, we don't have anything for you. So I kind of went there with a grain of salt. But when I got there, a whole bunch of motorcyclists showed up and we started riding together. And for 3 years, I rode with that group of guys to go honor and support Gold Star families here in Minnesota. And after the 3rd year, as a coincidence, that 3rd year was the same year that I rode the motorcycle from New Orleans back to Minneapolis in a day. So 3 months later, I'm riding with those guys and I'm going, okay, I know I can put on some miles on this motorcycle. Why don't we take this organization? Why don't we go nationwide with it? And they all burst into laughter. They said, it's crazy for you to think that you can go nationwide on a motorcycle to honor Gold Star families. And I said, okay, you guys stay here and watch. And, 4 years later, 3.5 years later, I've now done 5 rides around the country. As a matter of fact, I was in your hometown.
Really?
Last week.
You were, huh?
How do you pronounce it? Yakima?
It's Yakima.
Yakima.
Yep.
See, you can tell I'm not from there.
That's all right. That was pretty good.
I slept in Grandview.
Oh, yeah, really? Okay, yeah.
How far away is Grandview from you? Like 20 minutes?
It's in the same county, so yeah, Grandview would be, roughly a little more, 30 minutes, something like that, 45.
So yeah, and I woke up in Grandview and rode right through Yakima up to, I got on 97 north of Ellensburg, and I took 97 up through the pass and then jumped on Highway 2, and that was the route that I took to get to Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, yeah, I'm visualizing exactly where you're going. You got to ride over Blewett Pass. That's a beautiful pass, and then Wenatchee, and then, around 2, and into
you
Bellingham.
Can follow that. My memory is I went through Leavenworth.
You did go through Leavenworth, yeah.
Yeah, what a cool looking town that was. I stopped and did a little Instagram thing, a 30-second video. Of course, I never posted it. I should probably do that. So I was up and I went up there to visit this Gold Star mom and dad. And, that was a wonderful little visit. When I got done there, then I rode to Auburn. And I hung out with the family in Auburn for a short time. And then I slept in Auburn. And then the next day I headed back to Minnesota. And I made it to Bozeman, Montana the next day.
Wow. Yeah, it's laying some miles. That's
not
laying
as many
miles.
as I wanted, but that the road from Ellensburg, or maybe I should say from Yakima.
Yep,
that's how you pronounced it. Yakima?
It is.
So from Yakima to Leavenworth was under construction, and I sat not moving with both feet on the ground, I think 3 times, long enough to shut off the engine and you just enjoy the view for a while, because it was a 1-lane road and they had stuff stopped. I think there was 3 different spots of road construction like that. Ended up costing me probably 90 minutes.
No, I wasn't aware of that they're doing up that right now.
Well, they might have it done by now. I don't know that.
Yeah.
For the most part, road construction in the United States happens pretty quickly. It's road construction is one of the seasons of the year here in Minnesota. We have that 10 days that we call summer.
Right.
No, I often joke, summer came on a Thursday this year. But we often joke that summer is the day or two that occurs between winter and road construction.
Yeah, it's like that, huh? They probably got to squeeze it in, don't they? Is that why?
Yeah, they got to squeeze it in, because in the winter they can't lay the surfaces down because the cold is just too much. It has too nasty an effect on the surface of the roads when they're installing them.
I see.
But so we have a great deal of road construction here in the summer. So I was out there in your neck of the woods.
That's very cool. Yeah, I know. I wish I would have known. So I'm actually, and I know the audience will be genuinely curious to learn about this. I want to back it up just a little bit to give some context. So the way I'm understanding is the Gold Star Ride Foundation. Your title is executive director. Just that's what I read. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll
be happy to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is started as a small local type deal, and then you got involved because you went to this golf benefit, and at some point. So what's the history, and when did it really start, and then when did you take it like more national level?
The Gold Star Ride Foundation, which is really the only organization that I should be spending a great deal of time talking about and explaining. It came to life in 2016. So we're just finishing up our 4th year. And it came as a result of riding motorcycles to visit Gold Star families with the previous organization that I was just talking about, the ones that met me at that golf tournament 9 years ago, or 8 years ago. But when I went to them and said, let's go national, they all burst into laughter. No, we're not going to go national. That's too big a deal. And I just love it. And they said, you'll never be able to go national. That's, the famous last words. Nothing like asking me to commit to a challenge, telling me I can't do it.
Yeah, right.
And that's kind of the way it went. And that first year was 2017. I think I covered 7 states and like 9 or 10 families up here in the upper Midwest. I went through Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. and visited families there in 2017. And that was back in the days when I didn't really have any idea what I'm doing. Not like I have a great deal of an idea what I'm doing now, but I certainly have educated myself a lot in 17 and 18. In 2018, we blew out all the stops. In 2018, I started riding on July 2nd, and I got home on August 26th. And when it was done, I had covered just under 18,000 miles, something like 56 days of solid riding, averaging 375 miles every single day. I managed to go to 44 states. I managed to visit with more than 60 families. One of them, at least one of them, was in Washington, up there where you're at, in Kennewick. Stopped in Kennewick, Washington. Came up from Oregon, where I visited with, I think there was 5 families in Oregon. Hard to tell from the pictures that came back. But, we were talking earlier about the cameras. GoPro jumped on board and decided to be enough of a corporate sponsor for the 2018 ride to give me a whole bunch of cameras. So that's where the GoPro cameras came from.
Okay, very cool.
Sent me a box of cameras, so that was pretty cool. We got a little support from the Harley-Davidson dealership there in Kennewick. We got support from Harley-Davidson dealerships all over the country, as a matter of fact. I was really surprised by that. But Kennewick was one that we stopped in, and they did what they could do to slap us on the back and say good luck and fair winds and come and see us again.
Good folks down there. We know them well. Yeah, they've been on a few videos of ours. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was delighted to meet with them guys in 2018, and more than 60 families. And when I got back home, that's when I decided to write the book. I wasn't planning to write a book when the whole thing started.
Really? So that was an afterthought, huh?
No, as a matter of fact, what I wanted to do was make a documentary movie. So I was recording everything on these GoPro cameras, and I ended up with somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 hours of video from these cameras. And I don't have a clue what to do with it. I'm not very good at, I don't know how to edit video.
Yeah, I do a
Not to mention it's all 4K at 60 frames per second, and it requires high definition monitors and video cards and high-end computers just to look at it.
Yep, that's what I do, so I know all about that.
Yeah, so anyway, went out to dinner with some friends. My wife and I went out for dinner like a week after I got home, and they said, well, what was it like over here? And what was it like over there? And what was the most exciting thing that you got to go through? And, we were sharing stories, and by the time the dinner was over, the guy, Jose is his name. Jose said, you got to write a book, and then he wouldn't let up on it. He said, you got too many stories, you got to write a book. So I spent last winter writing the book, and then negotiating the publishing deal, and then getting the thing published, and all the stuff that goes along with that, and then telling the publishing company they couldn't have any money. Not only do I want them to publish the book for me, they don't get any money. Oh. And I managed to do that. So they get the cost of printing. All the rest of the proceeds from the book go back to the foundation.
That is very cool. Very cool. What's the name of the book?
Yours very sincerely and respectfully.
Yours very sincerely and respectfully. Okay. Yeah.
It's as a token to the families that we go visit. We present them with a plaque to help them to honor their fallen hero. So the name of the fallen hero is on it. And also inscribed in the plaque is what's known historically as the Bixby letter. The Bixby letter, if you're not too familiar with it, is a letter that was actually written by Abraham Lincoln to a woman who lost 5 sons in the Civil War. And it was his letter of condolence letter. It's a 3-paragraph piece. It's very short. So we edit the first paragraph out because it only talks about that woman and her kids. But the next 2 paragraphs are all about expressing condolences and how proud she must be to have laid so costly a sacrifice at the altar of freedom. I think that's the words that he used. But he signed that letter, yours very sincerely and respectfully, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where we took the story. And if that letter sounds a little bit familiar to you or to any of your listeners out there, that letter was also read verbatim at the beginning of the movie Saving Private Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so that's where the name of the book comes from. And, at first glance, it's kind of a strange title. Hard to figure out what it means, but once it's explained, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want
to, it could be me being arrogant.
No, I don't think so. The explanation definitely makes sense. So tell me what, so for the audience, what's to break it down a little bit, what is a Gold Star family? What do you guys, do for somebody that acquires that title, I guess, a Gold Star family, and kind of behind the scenes and how can people reach out and all that kind of stuff? Let's dive into that a little bit.
All right. Well, let's start with this. You have a multifaceted question there. So let me start by saying goldstarride.org. Anytime you want, go to Gold Star Ride. You can make donations. You can watch our videos. You can see the stuff that we've done and the stuff that we continue to do. You can look at comments that we posted from different people that we've helped or different people who have somehow or other been involved. So we try to put as much information as we can on the website. Incidentally, we invite anybody on 2 or 3 wheels to come ride with us anytime you want. We don't charge anything for riders to come along. There's strength in the power of a group of motorcycles, and you're probably familiar with this. Every one of your listeners is probably familiar with that. And the more the merrier, the more bikes we have, the stronger everything feels. So anybody's invited to come along anytime they want. And most of our schedules are posted on the internet. And if I talk about something that's not posted on the internet today, it probably will be by the end of next week. Now, having said that, a Gold Star family, you asked what a Gold Star family was. That's an immediate family member of anyone killed in the military. We use that term a little bit more loosely than, for example, the Marines do, because the Marines have decided that they're not going to issue anybody a Gold Star unless a Marine was killed by enemy fire. And I think I have that definition correct. But that means very specifically exactly what it says. Unless an enemy combatant killed that Marine, that family is not honored with the Gold Star. And different branches of service have different methods of dealing with that. Our organization loosens up those restrictions a great deal. If you have somebody, an immediate family member, who put on a uniform to defend this country and they're no longer with us, you're a Gold Star family in our book. That's pretty much the way it is. If they ever had the uniform on and they're not here, that's all it takes. We think that's a pretty huge sacrifice, no matter how their life was taken away from them. The bottom line for us is that was somebody who volunteered to defend our freedoms and our liberties, to give us the freedom to go ride motorcycles and do whatever we want to do. And they're not here anymore. There's still a hole at that family's Thanksgiving dinner table. There are still presents missing underneath their Christmas tree. There is still young kids in that family who are growing up without that particular mentor. So we don't make the distinction of the how. So that's one of the things that makes us different, and that's the definition, the easiest way to understand it. Immediate family member killed in the military. And what do we do when we get there? Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit and say that we do not reach out to any Gold Star family. They have to reach out to us. We're going to honor their privacy and confidentiality to the point where we're not going to approach them at all. However, they are free, and we encouraged as much as I can in public forums like this one. If you're a Gold Star family, reach out to us. We'd love to come and meet you. We'd love to come to you and express our condolences at your loss and how happy we are that we're all part of this little group that includes the greatest military that the human race has ever known on planet Earth, and the fact that they're out there protecting the greatest country, and we are the greatest country because we have so many freedoms that we get to enjoy. So what happens when we get there? And I think that's the last part of your multifaceted question.
Yes.
What happens when we get there is different everywhere we go. A lot of times I started doing this just going, this is just something I feel strongly about. I just need to go out and talk to these families and let them know that I, at least, am not going to forget the sacrifice that they made. If you think about this, I've got 12 brothers and sisters. I come from a very large family in southern Minnesota, farm community, and I was born in the 60s. Wasn't so uncommon to have a big family back then, by the way. But if you came to me and you said, okay, here's the deal. We all like freedoms and liberties in the United States. And in order to do that, you have to pony up one of your brothers and sisters. So you just point to one of them, and we're just going to put them in the ground right now. And that's what's going to take to ensure your freedoms and liberties. That's a pretty tough decision for me to have to make because I have so many. But if you don't have any, or you only have one, and you got to say, okay, that one's got to go, that creates a whole different way of understanding what it means to have the freedoms and liberties that we have in the United States. It's freedom isn't free. That's not just a euphemism or a metaphor or a cliche. That's what we're talking about here, is just exactly how expensive that is. So what happens when we get to the families? Well, it's different every time. And we arrive and we express our condolences, and then we just sit down and see what happens. We're not a very formal organization. We don't start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem. We don't start with the playing of taps. It's just, you know what? We're just here to kind of do this in a very casual atmosphere, and it's different everywhere we go. I went to visit a Gold Star mom in Jacksonville, Florida, in 2018, and well, first of all, she wasn't even on the list. So I was done in Florida. I was headed out. I was halfway across the Panhandle on my way to Alabama. And I stopped at a hotel, and I get an email from somebody in Jacksonville, and she says, well, I don't know anything about what you're doing, but I'd kind of like to meet you. And I said, okay, fine. I'll change the schedule. And the next day I turned around and I rode 4 hours back to Jacksonville, Florida to meet with this woman. And I got to meet her at the cemetery where her son was buried. Incidentally, they asked me to meet him at the cemetery often. It's not uncommon at all for me to go to the cemetery. So we're at the cemetery, and she just looks at me and she says, I got no idea what you're doing here. And an hour and a half later, she's in tears and she's hugging me and she says, I am so glad that you came. This is just kind of the way it rolls. We never know what's going to happen. I don't think I said anything special. I was just there. I was just present and being there. When I was up in Washington, which was 2 weeks ago, I think it was just 2 weeks ago I was up there. I'm meeting with the Gold Star mom and her husband. And I said, okay, what would you like? What can our organization do for you? Aside from, we're meeting here at this restaurant and we're picking up the tab for the dinner for you, and all like that, the stuff that you expect. They said, no, nothing. We've got everything that we want. Well, the conversation rolled on. Again, casual conversation. We talk about the things that are important to us to talk about. And I come to find out that these two are living paycheck to paycheck. They got no savings and no retirement. And they're happy and they're content with what they have to deal with. But not only are they living paycheck to paycheck, they're living paycheck to 2 days before paycheck. And they're going 2 days without anything. So we just said, well, there's a mall over there. Let's go shopping. So we just took them shopping and bought them some stuff that they wouldn't have normally purchased for themselves. Took them to the grocery store and stocked them up and filled up their refrigerator for a month or something like that. And they were reluctant to even accept that. But that's what we did for that family because it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. There was a 12-year-old boy we met in Pennsylvania whose father was killed when he was 3 months old. And he was a fun little kid, 12 years old, and he's just walking around the motorcycle going, I can't believe you rode this thing 2,500 miles just to see me. He's a great kid. Anyhow, we set him up with a college fund, so his college is going to be taken care of when he finishes high school. That's one less thing for him and his mom to have to worry about. So every time we go someplace, we're not sure how it's going to end. We're not sure how it's going to go. We're just going to do our loose definition of what we do for the families is we will do whatever the hero would have done had they survived.
Wow.
We found a Gold Star dad out in Maryland 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, something like that, who was in desperate need of hospice care. He was an older guy who was having a harder time getting around, and he couldn't get out of his own bed for a couple of weeks before somebody discovered that he was there, and he didn't have the means to put together for his own hospice care. So we set him up, and he's got somebody taking care of him, and he can go to the bathroom with a little help from somebody that he couldn't do before. And we did this because his oldest son was killed in Afghanistan. And it seems like to me, it seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah. It's hearing those stories, amazing. So
well, I'm going to save my favorite one for a little bit later in the conversation.
Very, very good. Yeah, no worries.
So yeah, these are some of the stories that you're going to find in the book. The book was published before I made it out to Washington to go to Bellingham, so that story's not going to be in there. It might be in the second edition or the sequel or something like that. I don't know if there's going to be a sequel or not. But so last year we did the one big, huge ride, 18,000 miles in 56 days. And that came about as close to tearing my family apart as anything ever has. So I've agreed with my wife and the other board members of our organization that there won't be another huge ride like that. We're not going to go out once for 2 months. So our first ride this year was in May. I was gone for, I think, 9 days, went from Minneapolis to Washington, D.C., did the Rolling Thunder Parade, visited with families in Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Illinois. Then in June, I did 2 rides, 2 different days. I went 900 miles round trip on one trip to see 2 families. And I did another one a week later for about 800 miles round trip to see 2 families. Those trips, incidentally, were in a single day. I left in the morning, came home at night. So my wife was rather pleased about that, even if I was gone for 18 hours to pile on all those miles to go see those families. She was glad that I came home. And then the 4th ride that we did was rather amazing. I actually went to Louisville, Kentucky, and visited with some families there and some of our supporters in Louisville, and did a book signing at the Harley-Davidson dealership there. They helped us out in 2018 as well, and then they invited us to come back for that. And then I immediately went from Louisville, Kentucky to Rapid City, South Dakota.
Yep, been there. Stayed there when we went to Sturgis, yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that's about 900 miles. And Terry Reimer, who was inducted into the Sturgis Hall of Fame this year, is the general manager at the Black Hills Harley-Davidson dealership. Put us up for a week, so we had a little vendor booth right in front of the front door at the dealership for that week, passing out brochures and telling people about the good work that we're trying to do. And as soon as the rally was over, I headed west. Made a stop in Billings and Bozeman, Montana. Then I made a stop in Sun Valley, Idaho. And then I went up to Grandview, where you're at, then up to Bellingham, and then down to Auburn before heading back. So that was the 4th ride of the year.
So when you talking about these rides, is this you say how does that look like? Is it basically the logistics of that? Like, do you have things set up, and who's riding with you?
This is a motorcycle show, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Use motorcycle language.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Yeah, we're
primarily we is me and the turd that rides in my back pocket. We find the family, or the family finds us, and we just kind of, for the family in Bellingham has been in touch with us for about a year, and we said, all right, when can we schedule a trip to Bellingham? How can we get to Bellingham from Minneapolis? It's only 1,800 miles, and so how are we going to figure that one out? And then all right, look, we're going to Rapid City, and that's an interesting story all by itself. But we're going to Rapid City, so we're halfway there. We're going to schedule everybody else that wants us to come by as soon as Rapid City's done, because we're halfway there. We're going in that direction anyway. So the next one that we're doing is Arkansas, and we got families that we're going to visit in Arkansas and Missouri, and we're open to seeing families in Iowa, because that's the route down there. That'll be the 3rd week in September. And we're going down there. So here's the plan. We're going to go see those families, and I'm getting on my bike and I'm going. And we're publishing everything in as many places as we can, and we're doing as much social outreach as we can in programs like this one. So everybody, we're trying to get the word to as many people as possible. And anybody on 2 or 3 wheels, you just come and find us at that gas station when we're stopping for gas at 2:15 on Tuesday afternoon, and then you ride with us as far as you want to go. Usually what happens is I'm all by myself until I get there, and then people come out of the woodwork. For example, I mentioned that second ride in June. I actually went to a little town of Leola, South Dakota. It's about 300 miles away from Minneapolis. So it's a 300-mile ride there and 300-mile ride back. Near Leola, about 50 miles away from Leola, is a town called Aberdeen. I stop in Aberdeen at the Harley dealership there. Again, they're big supporters there. The local dealerships have been proven to be very big supporters of ours, except for the one that threw me out, and I'm not going to talk about where that might have been in New Orleans. So I stop at Aberdeen at the bookstore. I sign books for a half hour, and I say, okay, I got to go. The families are waiting for me. I go outside and get on my bike, and there's 85 motorcycles waiting to go with me. Now we got a parade that's 2 miles long going down the road for 50 miles to go see 2 Gold Star families down the road. And one of those families, it was a mother who lost her son in Vietnam. So, which brings up another interesting point about our organization. We don't care when you lost somebody. I've honored families that lost somebody in the Korean War. I've honored families that lost people in Vietnam and all parts in between. I actually served in the military about the same time that the Beirut bombing took place. I'm looking for I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that there will be a family one day that calls me up and says, the Marine in our family was killed in Beirut. But I haven't gotten that call yet. And of course, we've got a lot of families that we've done from the first Iraq War, the second Iraq War, Afghanistan, the Middle East, all that stuff that's going on over there now. But I wanted to put emphasis on the idea that we are willing, not only are we willing, we're excited to honor families that were created as Gold Star families prior to 9/11. And there's a very specific reason for this. It came up in our board meeting, and the other board of directors and myself had this conversation, and I specifically said to them, I have been denied help from veterans organizations that won't help me as a disabled vet because I sustained my injuries prior to 9/11. So I've had that door closed in my face, and that's why we want to make sure that we don't close that door in our face.
Hey Bikeaholics, are you searching for the easiest and quickest detachable luggage system for your motorcycle? Rick Rack has just what you're looking for. Forget all those frustrating straps and bungee cords that can come loose and slap your paint. Check out one of Rick Rack's awesome quick attach strapless luggage rack systems. This father-son team designed something really special. You can't find it anywhere else. Yep, and these guys ride, so they truly understand the needs of bikers. The Rick Rack Quick Attach system is strong, durable, and secure with a lockable system. Also, check out their full line of quality touring bags to accompany your quick detach system. Once you use Rick Rack, you'll never go back. Well, what are you waiting for, Bikeaholics? Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store and check out our full line of Rick Rack systems and bags. Hey Bikeaholics, searching for new and exciting motorcycle products? Zero3D has the products you dream about for your bike. Check out their wide variety of innovative products for Harley-Davidson and Honda Goldwing motorcycles. Zero3D's got your back with chrome, black parts, lighting, and other comfort products. No modifying, cutting, grinding, or welding for an easy installation. That equals less time installing, more time riding. Zero3D has a design team of riders with over 40 years experience with a passion for design and innovation. Zero3D, Gold Strike are the motorcycle LED lighting innovators for CAN bus plug-and-play system compatibility. They pride themselves on great customer service. Got a question? Get in touch with them via email, sales@zero3d.com. Give them a call, 715-808-0027. Check out your local Harley or Honda dealerships and ask for Zero or Gold Strike parts. A new leader has emerged, so check out Zero3D's custom line of Gold Strike products for the all-new Honda Gold Wings. For all you Gold Wingers, that's right. Better yet, help support us. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store and check out our full line of Zero3D products.
Our organization has a very special place for Vietnam veterans anyway. There are two stickers on my motorcycle. One is repeated about a dozen times. It says Gold Star Ride Foundation. And the other one is kind of hidden behind one of I ride a big, heavy Harley that's got all the bags on it and stuff.
Yeah, Ultra Limited or something?
Yeah,
or,
Ultra. I got the Ultra Classic. And on my right side, saddlebag in the back, there's one sticker that just says, "We love our Vietnam veterans." Inside that bag, I always have a bottle of Cuban rum. And I keep it there because President Obama signed an executive order saying it's now okay to own Cuban rum and Cuban cigars, for that matter. However, it's still illegal to buy it or sell it, rum or cigars. You can own it, but you can't buy it and you can't sell it. So up by your neighborhood, it's no big deal. You get in a car and you drive for 5 hours and you buy all of that stuff you want.
Right.
And then you bring it back over the border, and if they find out that that's what your trip was for, they're going to charge you a great deal of money in tariffs to get that stuff across the border, but they're going to let you keep it. Well, over here, I'm a little bit farther away. I think I'm about a 9-hour drive from the Canada border where I'm at. But the principle of the whole thing is you can't get it anywhere else. So I'm going to go out of my way to do something just a teeny tiny bit special, and only Vietnam veterans get to drink the rum that I carry on my motorcycle.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
It's a tiny, tiny little thing that I do. But you'd be surprised how many Vietnam veterans are motorcyclists. I think about 99% of them are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was really fortunate when I rode out to Washington, D.C. in May. I joined in the Midwest. I joined an organization called the National Veterans Awareness Ride, which came out of Sacramento in order to get to Washington, D.C. for Memorial Day. Interesting story. How long is your podcast anyway? How many stories can I tell?
You just tell them and we're good. Yeah. I love them.
So Memorial Day was coming, and I talked to the board members and I said, Memorial Day is coming. That's kind of like our Christmas. I mean, one of our slogans is for the Gold Star Ride Foundation, every day is Memorial Day. That's one of our slogans. Memorial Day is coming. We should probably try to get involved with some kind of a attention attracting something. There's that Rolling Thunder thing that happens in Washington, D.C. I'm sure that the nation would all stand up and give a salute to me on the motorcycle. If I'm out there by myself in the middle of 1 million motorcycles, I'm sure I would stand out. Anyways, it turned out I got a neighbor, a Vietnam veteran, literally 5.5 blocks away from where I live, walking distance. And I rode my motorcycle over to see him. And I said, don't you do something on Memorial Day? He says, yeah, I ride with the National Veterans Awareness Ride out of Sacramento. They ride from Sacramento to Washington, D.C. I join them when they cross Iowa. And I said, oh, okay, cool. Can I go with you? Yeah, you can join them. So about the same time that this was happening, I had sent out press releases to everybody I could imagine or get my contact information for. And Fox News Channel called me up and they said, we'd like to interview you on Fox News Channel on Memorial Day. And I said, that would be fantastic. They said, can you get to either New York or Washington, D.C.? And I said, as a matter of fact, I'll be in Washington, D.C. So I ended up hooking up with these guys. I joined them in Michigan City, Indiana, and we put it together with the guys in that organization and the work that we do in our organization. We got to stop and visit veterans and Gold Star families and high school kids and make some appearances and speeches and do some stuff all the way across the country. But for me, it was just the last 1,000 miles or so from Minneapolis to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And that's how I got out there. So that was kind of cool that my next door, or not my next door neighbor, but a very, very close neighbor was going on that ride. And that's how I ended up getting out there and riding with them. And when we pulled into Washington, that ride we had 85 motorcycles going from the point where I joined them, which was 40 miles east of Chicago, all the way to Washington, D.C. There was 85 or 90 motorcycles going down the road. We took a 2.5 mile path
That's
down every
awesome.
road that we went.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got out there, and the closer we got, of course, the more motorcycles there were, and that's kind of the way that one worked out. But yeah, that was this. It's kind of an interesting thing that I do. But at the end of the day, I go to sleep and I go, did I do what I needed to do for the family that I talked to, whichever family it is on any given day? Did I say the right thing? Did I provide them with the needs that they have? Did I fill the needs that they have? Did I somehow make it easier for them to carry the pain that they carry because somebody's dead in their family?
Yeah.
So that's what I go to sleep with every night. And if you don't mind me just taking that story just a little bit farther.
No, please.
I got to visit a Gold Star mom in the Midwest. It was one of those rare things where I got to ride for 2 days before I saw anybody. So I did the ride. It was a hard ride. It was like 700 miles or something to get there, 800 miles in the Midwest. And I get there, and there's a local Fox affiliate news camera was there to record the thing and put it on their nightly news. That was kind of nice. And we're sitting at a restaurant, and I'm sitting with the Gold Star mom to my immediate right. And she didn't reach out to us. Her best friend did, and her best friend was sitting directly across the table from me. So, and there's a couple of, actually, we had a Gold Star brother and a Gold Star son at that meeting too. So we had 3 fallen heroes being represented by 3 different Gold Star families. But the woman sitting immediately to my right, and again, everything is being recorded here, and we'd been talking casually for so long that just pretty much anything was fair game or fodder for our convivial nattering, if I can use that kind of language with bikers. Anyway, she turned and looked at me and she said, I don't understand why my son took his own life. And I don't know what motivated me to do this. This was not scripted in any way, shape, or form, but she had her left hand on the table, and I put my right hand on the top of her left hand sitting on the table. And I looked her in the face and I said, he didn't take his own life. It was a sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away. And of course, she immediately burst into tears, and there was a lot of tears around the table. And with the relative quickness, the conversation just kind of rolled back to the convivial nattering that we had before. But remember, her best friend sitting across the table from me is the one who reached out to me and said, come and see my friend here, right? A week after that visit, the friend sent me an email and said that the Gold Star mom, later that day after the meeting, she tore up her own suicide note.
Wow.
And it's
powerful.
That's the kind of stuff that says, okay, when I wake up tomorrow, this is what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
This is what I've been doing for a long time, but this is what I'm going to keep on doing tomorrow. I mean, if you read the book, yours very sincerely and respectfully, available in paperback with black and white pictures on Amazon.com or hardcover with color pictures on our website, goldstarride.org. When we're doing an audio thing here, we got to keep plugging that, right?
Oh yeah, you got to, man. That's good. I'm looking at it right here on the website. Yeah.
If you read the book, you're gonna find that there's a kind of a theme that runs through all of the different stories that are written in the book, and that theme is, what the hell am I doing? Why am I out here? Why am I alone? Why am I doing this? Because nobody's gonna know. I could quit tomorrow. I could quit right now, and nobody would know that I quit. Except me.
Mm-hmm.
And what am I doing? What was the self-talk, right? What was it that I had to say to myself? It's one thing when you're riding through the Allegheny Mountains and the sun is shining and there's a gentle breeze and you're hitting the curves at 60 miles an hour and it's just gorgeous. Actually, you can do that out in your neck of the woods too.
Oh yeah.
Going through the mountain passes out there where you're at. I did that out there. This is gorgeous out here. That's one thing to go through the mountain passes where everything is perfect and it's an easy ride and it's an extreme amount of pleasure because you're on a motorcycle. It's another thing when you're riding along the Texas-Mexico border between San Antonio, Texas and Phoenix, Arizona. And every inch of the drive or the ride is over 100 degrees.
Been there.
And there's one spot on that road. I had the cruise control on my motorcycle set at 85 miles an hour. And I rode for 60 minutes without seeing another breathing creature. I didn't pass a car. I didn't see an armadillo. There wasn't a snake on the road. It was 110 degrees, and there was nothing. It was extremely barren. And after about an hour, maybe a little over an hour, I met a car. And, the car went that way, and just like that, the car was gone. But when you're out there doing that, and there's no radio stations to listen to. And if your bike is like mine, you got a CD player, but the CD skips all the time, so that's no fun. Incidentally, CDs on my bike will wear out. I'll put a brand new one in there and listen to it. About the third time I hear it on my bike, it's worn out from bouncing and vibrations and hitting and the CD starts skipping around. But when you're out there in those kind of conditions, it's real easy to say, next place with air conditioning, I'm done. I'm stepping in and I'm not going to do this anymore because who's paying attention? Nobody's watching. I could quit. This is hard work. I got to Phoenix and I passed out from heat exhaustion 3 times. I'm an old guy. I should have known better. I should have known how to prevent heat exhaustion. But, I'm from Minnesota. Heat exhaustion doesn't occur very often in Minnesota.
Right.
So it wasn't really, the foremost on my mind. But something had to be going on to remind me that I had to keep going, and it was worthwhile to keep going. When I crossed Texas, and that story I just explained to you, that when I did that part of the ride to go to see the 2 Gold Star families that were in Phoenix, when I was there, I hadn't heard yet the story about the woman who tore up her suicide note. I didn't know that yet. I hadn't received yet the email from the 12-year-old boy. And the email said, all he's been able to talk about for the last 4 weeks is you riding your motorcycle out here to visit him. I hadn't received that yet, so I didn't have that motivation. The woman in Jacksonville did not write to me yet and tell me how her life is so much easier every day because a stranger stopped in to see her at the cemetery. I hadn't received it yet. So I had to find different motivation to keep going to the next Gold Star family. And I didn't know when I started doing this stuff, I didn't know that one guy showing up on a motorcycle was going to have an impact. I actually was worried that it would not have an impact. But it turns out even on the places where I went where nobody showed up to join me, it did have an impact. It had a huge impact. The woman that tore up her suicide note, I was joined by 4 motorcycles for that one. So 5 of us pulled into the parking lot. That wasn't a very big crowd. When I pulled up to see the 12-year-old boy, I was all by myself in that cemetery. When I pulled up in Jacksonville, I was all by myself in that cemetery. But then there's other places. You know, I pulled into Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They wanted to meet me at a restaurant. They had 3 fire trucks and 85 people gave me a standing ovation when I pulled in, which was cool. The first time I felt those accolades, and I didn't know what to do with it. So that was a little bit weird. But yeah, so I had to dig kind of deep on a lot of this thing. And this is the recurring theme that's in the book, is how exactly did I dig deep and figure out that this is what I'm supposed to do. When I got to Phoenix and I heard her tell me that story, I haven't told you that story yet, but when I got there, I didn't know what was going to happen. I never know what's going to happen. All I know is this is what I'm supposed to do. So I got to Phoenix, and she'd been a widow. Her husband was killed 9 years ago. So she'd been a widow for a long time. And she shared the story with me that every day while her husband was deployed in Afghanistan, every day she would come home from work, and the closer she got to home, the tighter her grip was on the steering wheel. And when she pulled onto the street where she lived, her knuckles were white because she was squeezing the steering wheel so hard. And what she was looking for when she pulled onto her street is any strange car. And she said, she told me this when we were meeting. She said, I knew if there was a strange car on my street, they were there to tell me my husband was dead.
Yeah, boy.
And every day for 3.5 years, she drove home white-knuckled, worried that there was going to be a strange car in the street. When the day actually came, she got the news. She kind of sort of got the news at work. Her son called her at work and said, come home. And she said, I'm busy. I can't come home right now. And son said, get home. You need to get home right now. So she walked away from her job and she drove down the street. And when she got there, the strange car was parked in the driveway. But she kind of knew it was going to be there before she left work. But for 3.5 years, and she told me the story of her husband too, which was just like a lot of the stories that I hear, and a lot of the stories you probably hear too. If you talk to veterans or their families, one of the constants that you hear about people who decide to go back, who don't have to go back, who volunteer to go back, they don't have to. They've already done their tour. They can stay home if they want to. They're not required to go back. But they go back to take care of their guys. They left their friends in the field, and they're going back to take care of the friends of the field. And this, the family in Phoenix that I was talking about, that's why he went back. He came home after a year, and he said, I don't have to go back, but I'm worried about my guys. They can't survive without me. He was a higher-ranking non-commissioned officer, so he was the leader, and he had a lot of guys under him. And he came back after the second year, and he said the same thing. I got to go back. I got to take care of my guys. And it was halfway through his 4th year when he gave up his life for the rest of us to go out and ride motorcycles all day.
Amen. This is just a real quick, guys, and we'll get right back into the interview. I hope you're enjoying it. Now, we love our patron members. We want you to become a patron member. We want to get to know you better. We want you in that private Facebook group. We want you at events. But hey, if the only way you can support us is through a flat donation, well, we accept that, obviously. We never balk. All right, at a flat donation. Peter Gastelone of Milltown, New Jersey. Marco of Luxembourg, Europe. Shout out Europe. Charles Grossman, Stephen Stratton of Stockton, California, also a patron member, definitely a familiar name. Kevin Mars of Versailles, Ohio, James Petrie of Kenmore, New York, and finishing up with Michael Neely, Jeff DeRocher of Rogers, Kansas, left a donation after watching a free clutch adjustment video on our YouTube channel. And then Mike Lockett. Thank you very much. lawabidingbiker.com/donate is how you can do that. All right, let's get back into the interview. So, Anthony, everything you're doing is absolutely awesome. And I ask you this because you're telling me, and we ride far here too. We take cross country trips, and so I know some of your stories about riding 110 through New Mexico and all that. It can wear on you. It's very demanding. So I got to ask you, what is it about? Why'd you choose to do all this on a motorcycle? Because everything you're doing, you could rent an air conditioned car. You could take it easy. Money, you could fly if there was enough money involved. So there's got to be something deep in there that we can unpack on why you chose to do this and put yourself through this.
Well, I appreciate that question. That gives me a chance to talk about my wife a little bit. Actually, no, my wife, when I first started doing this, I shared the idea with my wife, and she said, "You're nuts." I said, "Okay, you're part of the majority. You're nuts." Yeah, I heard that over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many times I heard that I was nuts. I can't tell you how many corporate sponsors I called up and said, "Hey, what a great idea, but you're nuts. We're not going to help you. You'll never get this off the ground. You're just nuts." My wife said the same thing. She said, "Why don't you just get on an airplane, fly? Go there for a weekend, spend Saturday, do the thing, get on an airplane, come back home. You don't have to be gone for 56 days. You don't have to be dodging moose and elk and black bears on the highway." The most odd one I referred to it as dancing with the animals that cross the road.
Yeah.
My oddest, the most bizarre dance I did was with a black mountain lion in northern Wisconsin. So I got to dance with the black mountain lion. But that's what her concern was. You're going to put on all of these. What difference does it make? Why don't you just fly in? I said, if I fly in, nobody's going to care. I just don't see that they're going to care. It's not going to mean as much. Look at what they went through. First of all, they got somebody in the ground. Okay. They've got a tombstone that they're going to clean up and put flowers on once a month, or in some cases every day. This is what they're doing. And you want me to fly in an air-conditioned airplane and rent an air-conditioned car and go in extreme comfort to go knock on their door and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm sorry for your loss." It doesn't mean very much. Our troops right now doing the stuff that they're doing over in the Middle East, some of these guys are digging a hole in the sand hoping that they can find some kind of comfort to sleep in at night. These guys are peeing on rocks every day. These guys are eating food that would make a maggot puke most of the time. But hey, it's very nourishing. And somehow it survives the desert sun. It doesn't perish in the desert sun. It's vacuum sealed, so it's good for them. But, not a single one of us is going to go to a restaurant and order the kind of food that they have to eat. Look what they're doing for us. And when I think about the sacrifices that these guys are making, what they're doing for us, and then they go marching every day and they have to put on a backpack that weighs as much as they do. And then they got to go march for 25 or 50 miles a day. I think I can tolerate riding a motorcycle for a few hours. The other thing is that when it works, when stuff happens, when I pull into a small town and there's 85 motorcycles waiting to ride with me and we all go riding together, it attracts a lot of attention. And then everybody gets to look out the window and say, "Oh, look, 85 motorcycles. I wonder where they're going. Oh, they're going to go honor that family that lost somebody in the military." That makes a little bit of sense. There isn't a soul in the country that's going to look out their window and say, "Oh, there goes that rental car that's going to go honor that Gold Star family." It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, well said.
So that's why I go on the motorcycle. The other part of going on the motorcycle is, let me put it this way. There was a day in early 2018. Okay, I did the first big ride. I left July 2nd, 2018. There was a day somewhere around April. I don't remember the exact day. We'll call it April 15th because everybody's sad on April 15th anyway. After all, that's the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's assassination. See, you guys are all thinking I was going to say something about taxes. So everybody's a little sad on April 15th anyway. So let's pretend it was April 15th. And I'd been working hard, and a lot of Gold Star families started reaching out to us. And by us, I mean primarily me. We had a couple of volunteers answering the phones, but when it came time to talk directly with the Gold Star families about how they became Gold Star families and their specific issues, my fingerprints are all over all of those conversations. I don't delegate that to any of the volunteers, primarily because they don't have the same training that I do. Grief counseling and the study of psychology and human behavior is well documented in my resume. So that's something that I make sure that I do. So here we got April 15th. I probably had talked to 25 or 30 families in the course of about 5 days, which meant I went to 5 funerals a day for 5 days in a row. You know, I didn't actually attend the funeral, but I got to relive it with the Gold Star families because these are the things that they wanted to tell me about on the phone. They wanted to tell me why their hero was special. And the fact of the matter is he's special just because he put on a uniform. But they wanted to tell me the other details, and they wanted to explain all the other elements of how they go through the day. And I knew that this was part of the conversation that I had to have. I knew that part of my job with the Gold Star Ride Foundation, part of my job is to make sure that even if it's for a split second in the grand scheme of things, they have an outlet. And they have a decent outlet that they can trust and they can rely on that's not going to feed back to them and say things like, oh, well, get over it. He volunteered. Believe it or not, there's people like that in this country too. So we just want to make sure so I had to talk to everybody. And on April 15th, I came to bed one day and my wife looked at me and said, whatever it is you're doing, it's going to stop right now. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, you got bags under your eyes that go to your jawline. Your eyes are all bloodshot. I haven't heard you laugh in 2 weeks. Something's got to give here. What's going to give? And I realized that at that particular time, when I was taking in all those stories in April 2018, when I was taking in all those stories, I didn't have an outlet for it. I didn't have a way to release it myself. So now when I go visit all of the families, when I'm done visiting the families, I get on a motorcycle and I go riding through those beautiful mountain passes up there in Northwest Washington.
Amen.
And I leave all that stuff there. And I go riding through the Allegheny Mountains in western Pennsylvania, and I go through the Ozarks in northwest Arkansas, and I go through the Black Hills of western South Dakota. And, I'm just naming some of the more popular and more beautiful places in the country, but goodness sakes, there is so much incredible nature to witness and visit in these United States. Even that barren spot in South Texas has got something incredible to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one of the reasons why I'm on the motorcycle. I get to leave all my cares in the wind. All of the sadness that comes along with the work that I do gets left in the wind. And it's very therapeutic. It works wonders for me. I used to say I was going to get a patch and put it on the back of my vest that said my motorcycle is never parked in front of a therapist's office.
Yeah, exactly.
And then one day I was parked in front of a therapist's office. I thought, crap, now I can't have that patch.
Yes.
Listen, it was a therapy thing. I had to go. But
right, yeah.
I digress when I go into those kind of conversations. But some really wonderful, otherworldly kind of stuff happens for me that I get to experience it in this job. Not only the wonderful landscapes that I get to visit, but just some really unexplainable serendipity occurs. Here's an example. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is coming up. This is, 2 months ago. The rally was the first week in August, which was only 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about it like 2 months ago, and I'm thinking, okay, there's going to be a lot of motorcyclists there, and we should give them all a pamphlet that says the Gold Star Ride Foundation is doing this work. Okay, where are we going to go? Well, we've been to Sturgis before. I've been to Sturgis about 10 times. My wife has been to Sturgis twice. And she says to me, if you're going to the town of Sturgis during the Sturgis rally, I'm against it. My wife has got a little bit of a jealous bone. So, Sturgis is Sturgis. And for those of you who don't know what Sturgis is like, you're going to have to look at some YouTube videos, and they won't do it justice. For anybody who hasn't been to Sturgis, go, because it can't be described. You just go once.
Yeah, you got to experience it once at least. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody should experience it at least once. Okay, so here's what we're up against. We want to get involved. We want to have a way to pass out our information to all of these motorcyclists in the Black Hills for the Sturgis Rally, but we can't go to the city because that's too difficult for my family. So I said, hey, I know. We'll reach out to the Black Hills Harley-Davidson dealership, Terry Reimer. I mentioned his name at the beginning of this conversation. So I made a phone call to him, and they said, yep, Terry's the guy you want to talk to. You want to talk to Terry. I call Terry, get his voicemail. Call Terry, get his voicemail. Always leaving him I left him 2 messages. After that, I don't leave messages anymore because then I'm pestering him, and I don't want to do that. So I called him, I think it was 2 Mondays before the rally. I started calling him, getting his voicemail. He's not calling me back. On Tuesday of that week, I put a copy of the book with a personalized letter in a priority mail envelope, and I sent it to him. Okay, and I know the mailman's going to put it on his desk, but that doesn't mean he's going to open it. Goodness sakes, we're 10 days before the rally, and, he's got huge things to prepare for out there with the, they get a little city. I don't know if you've ever seen the Black Hills Harley-Davidson dealership during the rally.
I have.
But they have a 40-acre retail store. 40 acres. And it fills up into a huge motorcycle mall. So he's got a lot going on there. And Wednesday night comes, and I'm talking to my wife, and I say, I still can't get him to call me back. He probably got the package today, but that doesn't mean he's reading it. And she says, why don't you fly out there and go talk to him? Because he's going to talk to you. If you're standing in front of him, he will talk to you. He'll at least say yes or no. And I said, okay, I'll fly out there. So I fly from Minneapolis. Now it's Friday, the same week. What are we, 12 or 14 days before the beginning of the rally? And it's Friday. And I go to the airport. I'm at the gate. I'm getting ready to get on an airplane. It's going to fly to Rapid City. And there's another biker in the gate. He's obviously a biker. I'm dressed a little bit more conservatively for this one because, it's business, and I got to pretend to be the spokesperson. I got to pretend to be the executive director, so I can't be the biker. So I'm dressed a little bit differently. But this other guy is wearing a vest. He's got patches all over it. He's got a long beard, long hair. There's no doubt that this guy rides a motorcycle. And he goes to talk to the gate agent, and then he comes over and comes to me, and he walks right up to me, and he says, hey, Tony, how you doing? And I said, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for asking. But you have to forgive me. I don't remember where we met. And he said, oh, I rode with you to Leola when you went to see those 2 families up there in north central South Dakota. I rode from Rapid City to join you on that ride. I was one of the motorcycles that joined you at the Harley-Davidson dealership. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. Thanks very much for remembering me. And he says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Rapid City. I got to talk to the guys at the Black Hills Harley to see if we can set up a booth. And he said, oh, well, I live in Rapid City, so I guess we're going to be on the same flight. And I said, yeah, all right. So we fly to Rapid City. We're getting off the airplane, and as a coincidence, he and I are walking together. And we're walking into the, I don't know what you call that, tunnel that connects the terminal to the airplane. I don't even know what you call it. So we're walking down there, and we're walking together, and it's like I got a car waiting for me in the rental office there. I got to go get the car, and I'm driving over to and we walk through the terminal, and the Rapid City, South Dakota airport consists of 6 terminals or 6 gates. Very, very small airport. And he and we're high stepping it. We're doing our best to get the heck out of it. I got places to go. He can't wait to get home. And we're walking, and we passed through the gate area where everybody's sitting down. And he stops suddenly, and he puts up one hand, and he stops me. He puts his hand on my shoulder, and he stops me. And he says, hey, that guy sitting back there is wearing a Black Hills Harley-Davidson shirt. I bet he works there. And I said, I guess I'll go find out. So I walk over to this guy who's just sitting there minding his own business. And I said, hey, excuse me, but I noticed you're wearing a Black Hills Harley-Davidson shirt. And, they sell them shirts. Anybody could be wearing that.
Right.
So I said, I see you're wearing a shirt. And I actually flew in today to go visit somebody at Black Hills Harley-Davidson dealership. And he looks up at me and he says, who'd you come to see? And I said, Terry Reimer. He stuck his hand out and said, hi, I'm Terry Reimer.
Wow. What?
And I reached into my pocket and I pull out my brochure that has my logo on it. And I said, I'm this guy. He said, oh, yeah, I got your book yesterday. I've been reading it. It's pretty good. We got a spot for you at the rally.
Wow.
He goes, okay, it's a done deal. Wait here. I'm going to see if I can catch the next flight and go back home. I do that. They had a seat for me, so I just got on a flight to went right back home. And then I flew back to Minneapolis with Terry Reimer. I said, what are you doing? He says, well, the Dunlop dealer bought me tickets to the motorcycle race that's in southern Minnesota this weekend, so I'm going to the motorcycle races.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
So, and then, I go to the guy who recognized me in the first place. I said, I don't have to go rent the car anymore. I'm taking off and I'm going to go back home. He says, well, look, if this thing all pans out, I got a 5-bedroom house with 3 extra rooms in it. You can come stay with me while you're there.
Wow.
Fantastic. Well, he's retired Army helicopter pilot. He spent 25 years doing that. And that was the connection he had with me because I'm a disabled vet too. So, and he knew that. He knew what we were doing. He came out and rode with us. So, yeah. So we went to the rally. We had a booth at the rally for 8 days for free. And we slept for free, which is an unheard of thing at the Sturgis rally.
Correct. Yeah.
So for those of you who are planning to go to Sturgis now that have never been there before, plan on spending upwards of $150 to $250 a night for a bed.
A bed. Yeah.
For a bed. Yeah. The rally gets really expensive.
Yep.
And next year is the 80th, so count on 1.7 million motorcycles there too.
Yep. We'll probably be there. We were there at the 75th. We'll probably be there at the 80th. It sounds like we're still in the preliminary planning of that. But yes.
Oh, preliminary planning with only 49 weeks to go.
I know.
You better get off your butt and get that done.
That's how we have to plan these things because we have a lot of our members will meet us up. We usually throw a ride and catered dinner and stuff. So it's quite a big deal to plan. So tell me, for the biker community, as we kind of start winding down a little bit, how can the listeners out there, they want to get involved? What's the best way that the motorcycle community, which is an amazing community, and I know you know that because you're involved in it heavily, one of the best groups on the face of the earth, in my opinion, very giving. How do they get involved, and what can they do to help you and your mission here?
Well, if you don't mind me saying before I answer your question that your opinion is really based on sound evidence. I don't think there's anybody as generous in the United States is the most generous country on the planet, and I think that's been proven factually. But the motorcycle community is the most generous and loving community of any that are in the country that I've ever seen. A lot of people talk the talk, but the bikers get on the bikes and they do it. And they pay their $20 and go on this ride for that fundraiser and that ride for that fundraiser. And they do the Toys for Tots drives. And they do the crazy stuff like riding in the snow in the winter and whatever is necessary to promote whatever charity and good cause they're after or that they're working for. They'll do anything. It's amazing, the brotherhood of bikers.
Yeah. Amen.
But I thought that we had mentioned goldstarride.org in this conversation. So that's the best way to get involved. Everything that you want to know to get involved. If you want to ride with us, that information is there. If that information is not there, you can always send us an email and say, when's the next ride going to be? Incidentally, the next ride is the 3rd week of September, where we will ride through Missouri into Northwest Arkansas. Not for nothing, but we will be participating in the Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue Festival, which occurs in the Ozarks every year in September. And if you're not familiar with that, that's about 100,000 motorcycles getting together for riding through the Ozarks. So that's what we're going to be doing down there. We'll be participating in a Gold Star Families Memorial unveiling, which will be taking place in South Central Missouri after that. And there's a family we're going to visit. There's one tentative in Iowa. There's one confirmed in Missouri. And the unveiling of the monument will be taking place right after that. So that's the 3rd week in September. We've got tentative plans in October to go to Houston, Texas, which will be a ride from Minneapolis to Houston. In January, we're planning to ride from Minneapolis to Louisville, then Nashville, then Birmingham, Alabama, over to Atlanta, and then down into Florida for Gold Star families in each one of those cities along the way. So you can join us anywhere along the ride. You can join us at the beginning and try to keep up with us till the end. You can ride to the end, or you can drop out anytime you want. None of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters to us is Well, first of all, we'll have you sign our guest book so that we know that you were there and that you agree to let our cameras film you if you happen to be in front of our cameras, and that you promise to obey the rules of the road. If we're in a helmet state, you got to put your helmet on. And when we're around the Gold Star family, you have to be respectful of the Gold Star family. Otherwise, we don't ask for anything else. You got to pay your own way. You got to have your own bike, pay your own gas. If we stop for lunch, you better have your own lunch money and your own hotels. But all of that stuff is available at goldstarride.org. Our phone number is listed there. Our email is listed there. Our snail mail address is listed there. The best way to help us if you can't ride is, of course, with money. I hate to say it out loud, but everything is done with money. So if you got an extra $5 in your pocket, go to the website, click on donate $5 and send us $5. Buy a copy of the book there. The book is $35, so that'll cost you more than that single $5, but you still get a color. You get color pictures in the hardcover book from our website. And if you catch me on a good day, I'll even autograph it for you. You can comment on our videos on our website. You can comment on our blog. I've written a few stories, and they're all up there too. And incidentally, I kind of write the same way I talk. So if I told a story that you found kind of okay to listen to, then you're probably going to be able to read one that you think is kind of okay to read too. So because I kind of write the same way I talk.
Well, very cool. I'm going to have to, definitely get that and read some of these stories for sure. Well, thanks, man, for coming on, and hopefully we can get the larger biker community involved and to help support your mission, which is an amazing, amazing mission.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. There was, not for nothing, but there was talk that the Rolling Thunder parade in front of the nation's capital on Memorial Day weekend was going to end.
I saw that story. Is that changed now?
No, it's not true. The organizers changed hands, but you can't stop 1 million motorcycles.
Right.
You can say you're going to stop 1 million motorcycles, but you can't stop 1 million motorcycles. There was 2 guys that got together in the mid-'80s that started that, and it was started by a couple of Vietnam vets, and their primary issue was the Vietnam veterans' concern and Vietnam veterans' issues. One of them has passed away, and the other one just said, 35 years is enough. I don't want to do this anymore. So it's been taken over. If I'm not mistaken, I think the AMVETS court organization has taken over the organizing and policing and whatever it takes to get that parade done. I don't know if you've ever done it before, but the volume of motorcycles show up. It's just a parade in front of our nation's capital. But they ride 4 abreast, and they ride nonstop. There's no traffic. All the traffic is blocked for this parade, and it takes 5 hours for all of the motorcycles to go in front of the Capitol once.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's just hard to explain. They filled up 2 parking lots at the Pentagon for the staging area.
Wow.
It's 1 million motorcycles riding in a parade for a couple hours. It's a really amazing thing. So yeah, if you want to ride with us, reach out to us and talk to us about our organization going out there again next year. I'm about 90% sure that we'll be going out to Washington, D.C. for Memorial Day for that ride. So you can join us along the way, and that's a pretty cool little thing too. That's a game changer. If you've never gone along on a veterans ride or a Gold Star family ride or any kind of a ride that specifically honors our fallen heroes or our heroes, because along with that, with the National Veterans Awareness Organization in Sacramento, there's a lot of attention paid to veterans who are still alive. So if you've never gone on anything like that and you really want to change your viewpoint of the world around you, reach out to us and we'll help you get on that ride. I think it takes them 2 weeks to get from Sacramento to Washington, D.C. So you can plan for that, and it'll change your life. It's really kind of a neat deal. So look out for us and come ride with us, or throw some money at us to make sure we can keep on going. Or, if you don't like what we're doing and you want to let us know about that, send us that email also. Go to the website, click on the email, or send us a message. Tell us what you think we're doing is crap and we should hang it up. We'll probably ignore that one,
right,
but we'll read it. We'll read it.
Well, thanks for being on the show, Anthony. I appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure to be here.